there, guys.
How's everybody doing?
This is Rita.
This is Amanda. Welcome to
I Don't Know Her,
the podcast where we talk about women you've probably never heard of, but you should have.
And you will.
So we were just chatting about what could we talk about at the beginning to sort of warm us up. And I was like, oh man, let's talk about something we've watched. What did you watch?
Okay, so I watched, I'm a big fan of just garbage TV. And there's this show on Netflix right now called Diva Brides.
Oh my God.
And it's all, it's in England. And it's just about, it follows the stories of like bridezillas. And I used to watch bridezillas all the time too when it was on, I think,
Wasn't that on TLC or something?
I think so.
The Learning Channel?
The Learning Channel. Mm-hmm. And me and my husband used to watch it too. And my husband's also a big fan of garbage TV. And he actually was like, did you see there's this thing called Diva Brides on Netflix? And I was like, yeah. So it's like after we put the kid to bed, it's like our late night TV. And like one thing that I noticed that I hadn't noticed before when I watched Bridezillas 10 years ago, what is the obsession with just like these maniacal women wanting to be princesses? They get these like absurd tiaras and these just giant glittery, sparkly dresses. And they're just tyrants. But then they're like, do I look like a princess?
But isn't that the ultimate princess though? Right?
Is it?
Yeah. I mean, when I think of princesses, I think of like Marie Antoinette, but she was not a princess. But you know what I mean? Like this like
regal, big
like
gown.
Somebody who has everything and always wants more. But I have to admit, I definitely wanted to be a princess when I was a kid. When
you got married, though?
The first time or the second time?
The real one. The second one.
The second one was different, but my first one, I definitely wanted to look like I had a tiara.
Really?
Well,
you wanted the princess thing?
It wasn't a tiara. It was a comb that had crystals on it. So it still looked a lot like a tiara. Mm-hmm. And the bodice of my dress was bejeweled. It was still pretty simple.
When I went wedding dress shopping, I went to 2 places. I tried on 2 dresses and I bought one because I felt very like awkward and I wasn't really happy with my body quite yet. I mean, I was down 40 pounds, but I was still, I think I was like a size 18 and my goal was to be a 16. And so I remember trying on my first dress and it was very much the princess dress. And my mom and my sisters are like, oh, and the lady, I'm standing on this circle with like all these mirrors around me. And the lady's like, what do you think? And they're all like smiling. And I said, I feel like I would get really angry wearing this dress for 8 hours. And she's like, angry? And my mom was like, that's Rita. And I took it off and I went and got something different that was a little bit more me. But I don't know. I was thinking, is this something that we're programmed to think that we need? Like,
I think some people do. You know, I was just re-listening to our episode about Ruth Handler, the Barbie lady. And I thought about one of the questions you asked was, what do you think about the impression that Barbie leaves on young girls? Mm-hmm. And honestly, like, I collected the holiday Barbie. And she was a princess. Mm-hmm. And obviously, every single time there's been a Disney princess, Mattel has made a Barbie version of that princess.
Yeah.
When we were growing up anyway, girls in Disney movies were only princesses.
Yeah.
So that was your aspiration, was to be a princess. Now, I did remember something about my first wedding. I legitimately had shoes that looked like glass slippers.
What?
Yes. They were clear and they sparkled and I just thought they were the cutest. I mean, I was very young now. Remember, I got engaged when I was 19 and I got married at 21.
Oh my gosh. So
I
young.
bought all of my stuff when I was 20. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, I was basically still a kid, you know. I
almost not old enough to drink at your own wedding.
I know. My ex-husband had turned 21 2 months before we got married.
Wow.
So he was barely old enough to drink at the wedding.
Yep.
Yeah, it was, but like I definitely, when I was younger, sort of bought into that kind of fairy tale stuff. Mm-hmm. Now, when I got married the second time, that was a totally different ball game. It was way more relaxed because I did all of that like hyped up wedding industrial bullshit the first time.
Yeah.
So the second time, I just wanted to get married because again, the second time I got married, I wasn't allowed to.
Yeah.
So it was a totally different vibe. Like, we wanted to get married. We didn't want to have a party. We wanted to have the ceremony. Mm-hmm. The ceremony was the most important part. And that's just generally not the case with most weddings.
Yeah.
Most weddings are like, yeah, we're going to do the ceremony part, but like, let's all party.
Yeah.
Let's get together and celebrate. And of course, we definitely did do that, but we put so much time and work and effort and love into the ceremony itself.
That's awesome.
And that was the most important part of our second wedding. But I mean, I still had like a sort of fairy tale idea of what I wanted to look like. I had
Oh, your dress was so pretty.
I had a dress from the 50s.
Yeah.
That I found, and it had to have one of those tulle underskirts that poofs it out. Otherwise, it's kind of boring. Mm-hmm. And I twirled and I twirled.
Well, one thing that just like stuck in my head when I was watching this Diva Brides was this lady who's just horrendous. She was a terrible person, but she gets in this dress, and it's a very pretty princess dress. And there's a little girl there that's her little bride or flower girl.
Yeah, flower girl.
And her mom is like, look at her. She's a princess. Isn't that what you want to be someday? And the little girl didn't say anything. And she's like, that's what you want. That's what you want to be.
Oh, my.
And I was like,
what if she's like, no, I don't?
And that's what made me think. I was like, are we being told what we want? Like this idealism. It's like everything is so much about a day, but it's like, what about your marriage?
Yeah, I would agree. I'm actually reading Sarah Dessen's young adult novel right now called Once and For All. And the main character is the daughter of a wedding planner.
Oh.
And so she's been working for her mom since she was really young.
So she sees all these weddings.
She's super jaded about love and weddings and commitment and blah, blah, blah. And of course, obviously that's going to change. That's the whole point of the story. But I'm kind of enjoying her cynicism. So the show I'm watching right now, I binged and now I'm not able to watch it, is Russian Doll.
I watched it.
Oh my God.
So good.
I love it so much, especially because I love Natasha Lyonne. Mm-hmm. And if you are a queer person between the ages of 25 and 35, you probably love her too. Because she starred in the titular role of But I'm a Cheerleader, which is like this lesbian camp film about this girl who gets caught like kissing another girl or whatever. Mm-hmm. And her parents send her away to like a Pray the Gay Away camp. And she's like, but I'm a cheerleader.
I can't be
a lesbian.
Yeah.
Which is also kind of funny. It kind of plays into that idea of this like, well, this is there's only one kind of girl, and lesbians are totally not that kind of girl. And so that's the whole point of the show, is that she really is like totally a lesbian.
Yeah.
And Clea Duvall shows her the way.
That's such a good movie.
It is so good.
Yeah.
If you haven't already seen it, you need to put that in your queue.
Well, also along the lines of Drop Dead Gorgeous.
Oh yeah, that was a good one too.
That's a good one, of this presentation of the perfect female, but they're just awful people.
Heathers, same thing.
Same thing.
Mean Girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of movies out there that said, fuck politeness. Mm-hmm. Speaking of fucking politeness.
Okay.
That's a saying from My Favorite Murder. But this morning, I'm part of a local murderino group for that podcast. And that means we just share lots of things about murder because we like that. Mm-hmm. But there was a woman in the group who shared a video that another social media person had done. And I've seen her before. She's one of those like mommy people, like famous funny mom thing.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't have young children, so it's not something I've ever really paid much attention to.
I have a young child and I don't either.
Yeah, I think it's just a certain people like that. But it's the video that the woman shared had nothing to do with that kind of stuff. It was about how she gets these horrible messages from men,
Oh.
that say terrible things. And so she was reading some of the comments that had been made, and another fan of hers pointed out, like, this guy's been doing this all over your Facebook and Instagram or whatever, and he's really gross. So she was like, fuck this dude, and screenshotted his comments with his picture, his profile picture, and his name, like none of it blacked out or whatever, and then posted on Instagram. And her video was like, yeah, I did this thing. And what happened is that there were women who commented with things like, oh, that's not a kind thing to do. Maybe he was just flirting with you. And here are the kinds of things this man was saying. He was saying things like, let's fuck. I want to rip your clothes off and I want to fuck your ass.
Ugh.
Like, I mean, it wasn't like he was like, I think you're cute. He was saying disgusting, horrible things repeatedly on her public profile. And these other women had the audacity to say that she should have handled it in a nicer way.
Why does that fall on her shoulders? And no.
Right?
No, call it out.
Exactly. And so she actually started a hashtag that was like out them, hashtag out them.
Oh, nice.
One thing she said that I was like, oh, that's brilliant, is she made a distinction between kindness and niceness.
Okay.
Being kind or being nice. She said, being kind is believing that you can make the world a better place and you work towards a better world. Mm-hmm. Niceness is making sure that you don't rock the boat.
Put on a smile.
Yeah, put on a smile, pretend everything's okay, say all the right things, do all the right things, and that makes everybody comfortable. And I was like, oh, that is a really great point. Like, girls are constantly told to smile and to be nice. Mm-hmm. And
we're definitely told what to be.
All the time.
All the time.
Or what not to be. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was really interesting that she was calling out these women commenters who were saying that she should have handled it a different way. Mm-mm. Like, I expected better of you. You put his name out there in the public, public sphere. Yeah, no, he did that.
He already did that. Yeah.
He already put himself out there to be ostracized. Why don't we give him what he asked for? Sounds reasonable to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just thought that was a really interesting thing, and I think it ties into what we talk about all the time, which is breaking down barriers and being different and pushing the boundaries and striving for what you want versus what people think you should have. Mm-hmm. So, question. Mm-hmm. What kind of girl are you talking, what kind of woman are you talking about today?
I would say adventurer, explorer.
Okay.
It's positive.
Okay.
And it's short.
Sweet. I think we both have kind of short ones then.
Okay.
Mine's a Montanan.
Mine's a Russian.
So let's have you start.
Alrighty. So the lady I have today is Valentina Tereshkova. It's a beautiful name.
Job.
I know. I practiced. She is the first woman in space.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I feel like you probably maybe saw her picture or...
Well, I told you, I think on the last episode I talked about that I went through that book that was like 52 Women Who Dared. Mm-hmm. And it was like rebels and adventurers and blah, blah, blah. And I remember seeing her name.
Mm-hmm. So Valentina was born on March 6, 1937 in Bolshoye Malzlenikovo. So this is going to be interesting. I love picking somebody with like really hard stuff to pronounce. Life could be worse. It's a village in Western Russia. She was the second of three kids. She was a middle child. She had an older sister and she had a younger brother. Vladimir was her younger brother and Ludmila. She's a really pretty name. Yeah. There's some really good names in here.
I have a friend named Ludi. Well,
really?
She goes by Ludi, yeah.
Oh, cool. Her father's name was Vladimir and her mother's name was Elena. Her father was a tractor driver and her mother worked in a textile factory. So like yarns and fabrics and things like that. When she was just 2 years old, her dad was fighting and got killed in World War II. So it left her mother single, raising 3 kids. Tough situation.
And probably not financially well off.
No, they're actually very, very, they were described a lot in the research I did as peasant people.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Mm-hmm. So the mom continues working. She's supporting her 3 kids. So Valentina didn't end up starting school till she was 8 years old.
Why?
They waited till the war was over.
Oh, I guess that would make sense. Russia was in a bad place during World War II.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit of a rough time.
When I saw that, like a lot of people were like, oh, she didn't start school till she was 8. She didn't start school till she was 8. And I'm like, why? Why? So then when I finally dug, it was like, oh, the war.
The war that ravaged the entire European continent and most of Russia.
So finally receiving education, she dove right in. She was a good student. She was an avid learner. When she was 16, though, she had to leave school and she had to begin working because mom was like, hey,
yeah, well, you got to make some money.
Got to make some money. Need some help. She said that she was ambitious, and a quote from her, she wanted more from life. So she didn't want to work in a textile factory for the rest of her life. She continued her education. So this, I think, is really cool. She continued and finished her education through correspondence courses. So she could have just gone to work and called it good. And she's like, nope.
Well, it means that she was doing both at the same time, which I always find really impressive. I worked and went to school at the same time, and it was fucking hard.
Mm-hmm. I did too.
It was just so hard, and I envied my counterparts that didn't have to do that. And I still walked out with like $30,000 in student loan debt.
That is
Fuck
so
the American
insane.
education system.
So while working at the factory and going to school, she joined the Young Communist League. She became interested in parachute jumping after joining the Yaroslavl Air Sports Club, and she learned to skydive through the DOSAAF Aviation Club. So I looked this up. The goal of the club was to bring up young people with a patriotic upbringing of the population and preparation of it for defense of the motherland.
Yeah, I was like, this is all very Russian to me. Yeah, that sounds right.
So it's like a club where, hey, we're going to learn fun things, but we're actually preparing you for like battle.
Yeah.
So yeah, they had weird things like skydiving, but then also a couple of sports like swimming, gymnastics, skiing. So they wanted them to also be like athletic and yeah. She was an awesome athlete and she became an expert skier. She made her first official jump in 1959 when she was 22 years old. She ended up setting up at the textile mill that she still worked at. She started a parachute club there. And she became its first head.
Well, that's really cool, actually.
She was like, I really like parachuting. And by the way, I'm going to start a club. And by the way, I'm going to lead it. So the Soviet Union launched its first man into space. It was Yuri Gagarin aboard the Vostok 1. So the cosmonaut chief, Nikolai Kamanin, who was the head of the Soviet space program, said, okay, like it's the space race. You know, we got a guy up there first. We got to get a girl up there next. He said it was their patriotic duty to beat the Americans in putting a woman into space. So they sent out an open call for volunteers for women. Like, hey, we're going to be running this program. You have to come in and basically, like, apply.
And go through, like, hell.
Yes.
And also possibly die.
There were 500 women.
Wow.
That showed up.
Yeah, I'm sure, though, like, it was definitely... Even in America, the space race was it was such a big deal.
Well, yeah, it was about being like on the edge of the bright new future.
Yeah, and it was about being it really was kind of a little bit of a dick contest.
Yeah.
You know, like who's going to be the biggest and baddest and best?
Mm-hmm. She ended up applying. She had no pilot training, but she was an accomplished amateur parachutist. She had over 100 successful jumps under her belt. She was accepted into the program because of her expertise in jumping, because at the time the cosmonauts had to endure the physical force of the launch, and then they had to parachute from their capsules back down to Earth.
Yeah, that's right.
They weren't like in a capsule that landed in water and then they jumped out of the capsule. They were like, bam, you're out.
Oh my God, can you imagine how scary that would be?
Yeah.
Oh, terrible.
It's just kind of asking to die.
Yeah.
So she was one of only 5 women that were chosen. So I'm going to mention the other women's names because I think they should be mentioned. And I'm going to have some fun with these names too. So Tatiana Kuznetsova, Irina Solovyaya, Zana Yorkina, and Valentina Ponomaryova.
That first one, I bet I can say that one because I had a student whose last name was very similar.
Really?
Yeah, it's Kuznetsova.
Oh, is that it?
Yep.
That's it. So after being accepted,
I'm
they
just really
received...
excited I could say that because I've had a lot of Russian students and I've worked really hard at trying to say their names correctly because it's rude not to.
Oh. It kind of is. And we actually have a huge Russian population here in Washington and in Oregon.
In case we have listeners from elsewhere, this area specifically of Washington is full of Russian and Ukrainian immigrants and refugees.
Mm-hmm. So after being accepted, the ladies received 18 months of training. That's a long time.
Yeah, but it seems appropriate. I'm like, if you're going to put me into a rocket that's going to blast, thousands of miles and go beyond our atmosphere, I want to feel prepared.
And all that money, all that equipment.
Yeah. I don't want to die.
Yeah.
Let's feel prepared.
So training included tests to determine how she would react to long periods of time of being alone. So isolation.
Yeah.
They had to experience extreme gravity conditions. They had to study rocket theory. They did pilot training in MiG MiG jet fighters. They did zero gravity conditioning. Valentina was the only one that was chosen for the mission.
Yeah, I wonder if other people it was just hard on. It's really hard on your body.
I think it was hard, and it also mentioned that because her father was a war hero that died for Russia, and also because she was of simple means, they thought that this would be,
it's a good story.
It's a good story.
It's a good story.
The mission flight was going to be called the Vostok 6. So at 26 years old, on June 16th in 1963, Valentina, and she did have a backup, which was Irina. They both dressed in their spacesuits and they went to the launch pad by bus. This was kind of a fun part. A tradition that was set by Yuri, was to urinate on the bus tire of the van that they get to go to the launch pad. Yeah, Yuri was like, I'm going to empty my bladder, but I'm going to pee on the wheel of the tire.
But
is that a guy thing or something?
I guess because... So what did they do? Did they squat?
Well, it says following the tradition that Yuri set up, she urinated on the bus tire, becoming the first woman to ever do so.
Write that down in the history books, bitches.
Right? It's like,
teach that in history.
I'm going to do this too. Well, I remember me and my husband go camping a lot, and he would go outside to take a pee, and he was like, oh, and he would take my son, let's pee on the tire. And they would pee on the tire. And then we'd go camping in groups, and the other guys would pee on the tire. And I'm like, what? Why would you fucking pee on your car?
See, I always thought that was because they were because they would be up against the vehicle, so it would kind of shield you. I didn't ever think they want to pee on the tire. My dog pees on tires too.
Yeah.
Why do they pee on tires?
I don't know, but she did it.
Okay, well, you know what? Good for her. Equal opportunity pisser.
Exactly. So after completing her communication and life support checks, she was sealed inside the Vostok after a 2-hour countdown. It was long. I know. It's imagine being strapped in there and wait. Maybe that's why she made sure to empty her bladder.
Yeah, it's probably why they all do.
She was launched faultlessly, and she became the first woman in space. Her call sign in the flight, over the radio, was Cheka, which means seagull.
Oh, interesting.
I know. And I couldn't find any
trash bird.
She wasn't called Trash Panda. No. Yeah, I don't know why. I looked for a reason why they called her seagull. I don't know.
Yeah, literally they're trash birds. Mm-hmm. When I first met Abby, we went to
trashy bird.
we went somewhere, and I don't know, she talked about seagulls, and I was like, "Oh, I associate seagulls with trash." She was like, "Why?" I was like, "Well, I grew up with seagulls." She was like, "Wait, in eastern Montana?" I was like, "Yeah, over by the dump. They would just circle."
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they would eat all the trash, and that's where I grew up seeing seagulls, was at the dump, the public dump. So I'm shocked that anybody would be like, "I want to be known as a seagull."
I don't think she got to choose it.
Yeah, people talk about pigeons being the rats of the sky. I don't know.
No, seagulls
are worse.
Terrible. I actually, and friend fact, which is what I'm just going to call it now.
I like that friend fact.
Friend fact, I'm terrified of seagulls.
You should be. They're mean and aggressive.
Like, we went to San Francisco on vacation, and there was an outlet that went all the way out to the ocean. And my husband's like, let's go to like the very end. And there was a garbage can halfway there, and there was seagulls everywhere. And I was like, nope. And I turned around, and he was like, you don't just go around them. I'm like, I was like, nope.
I feel that way about geese too.
And I'm actually afraid of seagulls. I can do other birds.
You should be afraid of geese too. They'll chase you and bite you. I'm serious. The ones here are really mean.
They are. They're pretty aggressive.
They're very aggressive. They have definitely bit children and knocked them over. And no, thank you. Birds are scary.
Oh, so her name too, the Cheka, was commemorated as an asteroid for her, which I thought was pretty really cool.
I like it.
She orbited the Earth 48 times and spent almost 3 days in space. With a single flight, she logged more flight time than combined of all the American astronauts who had flown up to that date.
Get it, girl.
I know. She maintained a flight log. She took photographs of the horizon, which later was used to identify aerosol layers within the atmosphere, contributing to science. Yes. Also, there was an error in the spacecraft's automatic navigation software, and it caused the ship to like move away from Earth, which caused like this gust. So when she was shot out like a bullet, this gust like affected her suit. And when she landed, she hit pretty hard. She hit her face. So she got like bruised. She got her face a little messed up. It wasn't broken, nothing like that.
Oh my God.
One report I had read was that when she landed, like people, like other Russian scientists said like, it's like she's drunk or something. Like they thought maybe she had taken a shot. It's like the girl probably had a concussion.
Yeah.
She hit her face.
And also the amount of the gravity changing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So she actually had noticed this flaw in the navigation system. And so the Soviet scientists were able to develop a new landing algorithm.
Because she was like, hey, bitches, I noticed this thing. You should probably fix it.
Fix it. And then when I hit my face and smashed back down to Earth, yeah, it's a real problem. She landed safely, though, despite the default in her nav equipment. She landed in the Altai region near today's Kazakhstan, Mongolia, China border. She parachuted from her spacecraft to Earth from 20,000 feet.
Parachuting the entire time?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my God.
I know. So villagers helped her out of her spacesuit. They asked her to join them for dinner. Oh. She accepted and later was reprimanded because she was supposed to be like seeing medical doctors and like tested first.
Well, you know, I have a friend from Kazakhstan and they are extremely hospitable people. I wouldn't turn them down either. Home cooked meal after being in a spaceship for 48 days or whatever. I know. 3 days, 48 rotations.
Yeah. So when Valentina landed, she was honored with the title of the Hero of the Soviet Union. And shortly after her flight, though, she did leave the space program. She married a fellow cosmonaut named Andrian Nikolaev. They had a daughter named Elena, named after her mother. And the child was actually a subject of medical testing because she was the first child born of 2 people who had been in space.
Oh, the husband
was a cosmonaut.
Said he was a cosmonaut, but I didn't know crazy.
Yeah, so they were like, let's test your baby.
Let's see if there's anything fucked up in your kid.
Or maybe they're a superhero. I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, that'd be kind of interesting. Did they find anything?
Elena said she was not bothered by the interest. In fact, she later became a doctor.
That was probably a very impressionable experience. She was like, look at all these cool things you can do with needles and machines.
I thought that was hilarious because you think that would be terrifying. And then she's like, nope, I'm going to be a doctor.
Yeah. Well, kudos then to the doctors who were working with her who made her feel safe.
Oh, true. So she became a spokesperson for the Soviet Union. She would later receive the United Nations Gold Medal of Peace. She received the Order of Lenin twice and the Gold Star Medal, some of Russia's highest honors. So when she left the space program, she became pretty politically active because she was like, they made her a spokesperson and she achieves like such an amazing scientific goal that they wanted to use her like as a platform. And she was more than ready to be like, yeah, let's get some stuff done for like our government. One thing that I had researched as well is when she started doing her press tour, when she was done, a lot of people said that she looked a lot more put together than what they thought. Like a lot of American people said that they
What
had
is that
this
supposed to mean?
They had this stigma of what Russian women were supposed to look like, which was poor and rugged. And I think one reporter even said shapeless and unattractive. Yeah, so it's like, and I know that this relationship with Russia and America has been terrible. And so I feel like it was another, like, let's just vilify them.
Yeah, it seems like it was like those stereotypes that were placed upon people.
Yeah. And, she's a very nice looking woman. She just looked sweet and classy. And they were like, she's not wearing a potato sack. Yeah. So she used, what she accomplished as a platform to help her country.
That's good.
Which I thought was really cool. It's like, use what you got. She became a member of the Presidium of the Supreme Soviet and the Central Committee of the Communist Party. She became a well-known representative of the Soviet Union abroad. She led the Soviet delegation to the World Conference on Women in Copenhagen. She played a critical role in shaping socialist women's global agenda for peace. She was very much an advocate for peace.
Well, that's good because Russia isn't always an advocate for peace.
No, I think that's why she won a medal for it. She attained the rank of deputy to the Supreme Soviet and a membership of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union Central Committee. They like long names for their stuff.
Yeah, I'm noticing that.
She was the vice president of the International Women's Democratic Federation, and she was president of the Soviet Algerian Friendship Society.
She did a lot of shit.
And on April 5th, 2008, she was the torchbearer for the 2008 Summer Olympics in St. Petersburg, Russia. In 2011, she became a member of United Russia, where she continues to serve today.
Oh, she's still alive.
She's still alive. So I was looking up what the United Russia is and like the Duma, which is basically like factions of their government. So she's
okay.
Yeah, so she's basically like if you would say she was serving, in the Senate or something like that.
Yeah, but it's not really their governing body.
It's not?
I don't think so.
Oh, I thought that I might have got that wrong. If anybody out there knows that answer, let us know. In 2017, London's Science Museum opened a temporary exhibit called Valentina Tereshkova, First Woman in Space, which celebrated her contributions through artifacts as well as her photographs.
Cool.
She also, and this is like the best thing ever, she has a crater on the moon named after her.
Oh, that is neat.
And I never knew that.
I didn't know that either.
I've actually studied quite a bit about like the lunar surface, and I never heard that name of that crater.
I didn't know that either. I mean, I knew that there was a woman who'd gone to space. I knew she was Russian, but I didn't know that she'd been commemorated in so many different ways.
Yep.
That's really cool.
That's my lady.
Well, congrats, Valentina.
I know. She has such a beautiful name.
My favorite, not my favorite, but one of my favorite drag queens is named Valentina.
Nice. It's also a really awesome hot sauce.
Good to know.
Yeah. But I really enjoyed this one. I used to be a huge science nerd. I don't want to say nerd, but
I don't think nerd is a bad term.
You don't think it is?
No.
Okay.
And I think they're all different kind of nerddoms.
There is.
You
can geek out about a lot of things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like I'm definitely somewhat of a nerd on certain topics. Mm-hmm. Could tell you a lot about serial killers. I think that makes me a freaky
She could. Nerd. Well, who did you bring? We didn't do the same person?
No, we did not.
Yes.
I'm going to talk today about Stagecoach Mary.
I don't know her.
She was the second woman ever and first African-American woman to work for the U.S. Postal Service.
Ooh.
Yeah. Her real name was actually Mary Fields. She was born a slave in Hickman County, Tennessee, sometime around 1832. Because she was a slave, she didn't actually know her birthday. It wasn't recorded or celebrated when she was younger. But we knew she was sometime around 1832 because of records kept about slaves, because they were considered property.
They were probably, documented as new possessions.
New acquisitions or whatever they called it. According to one source, her mother was a house slave, worked in the house, and her father worked in the fields. And that might be where she got her name. In 1865, Mary became emancipated as a result of the Emancipation Proclamation.
Oh.
And just like many slaves did after the war, she wanted to obviously leave the area. So she started working as a chambermaid on the Robert E. Lee, a steamboat on the Mississippi.
Oh, wow. Oh, on a boat? No.
I know. So in case you're wondering why I sounded weird when I said that, it's because she's cleaning out people's shit. That's really gross.
Yeah.
That sounds like a
You're
terrible
cleaning
job.
out the bucket.
So she, at this point, may or may not have met a judge named Edmund Dunn while working on the boat. Sometime, that's probably where she met him, but it's not really recorded as fact.
Okay.
But he invited her to become a worker in his house. So she started working in Judge Dunn's house. And when his wife died in 1883, she took the family's 5 children to their aunt to have a caretaker. And the aunt was a nun, not just any nun, the Mother Superior nun.
Ooh.
In the Ursuline convent in Toledo, Ohio. The aunt's name was Mother Mary Amadeus.
That's a name.
Yeah. So she goes to Toledo, Ohio, with these 5 children.
And these are not her children.
No. This is the wife of the house.
Okay.
But since they had a female relative who could take care of them, that would make more sense. The judge was like, from what I gathered, because he had his own page.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He was an important judge. So I'm sure he was really busy or whatever.
Yeah.
And men didn't really do a good job at being fathers at the time.
No.
At least. So she took the children to Ohio to see Mother Mary Amadeus. When she arrived, so now I'm gonna start to get into her character. When she arrived, she was reportedly asked by one of the nuns how her journey had been. And she replied that she was, quote, ready for a good cigar and a drink.
I like that.
Right? She's already my kind of lady. And the convent was described as being a very serene and disciplined convent, which was not a good match for Mary Fields. She was described as being gruff. She had a penchant for cursing while working there as a groundskeeper. And the nuns complained about her temper and her, quote, difficult nature.
I'm going to add that, by the way, in my obituary. It's like Rita loved hiking and had a penchant for cursing.
She became a groundskeeper at the convent, and she was very particular about the way that she kept the grounds. And she frequently got into arguments with the nuns because they would disturb her landscaping.
Oh, well, she knows how she wants it.
So she's like, you can't walk there. I just mowed that grass. However, I would also say that she fought with the nuns over her wages as well, which she felt were too low. And the nuns were all white women. And they thought she was, asking for too much as a black person.
Okay.
So there's, we know what time and
place this is.
This is. So they basically were like, you can't be so uppity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
you're
that's
lucky
the attitude.
You're
lucky
here.
You're even allowed to do this. However, the Mother Superior, Mother Mary Amadeus, she liked Mary a lot. She really liked her and took her under her wing, and the two became what was referred to as comrades. Not quite friends, but comrades. So we're going to take a little side route. So during this time, there's westward expansion happening, right?
Okay.
And there are tribes that live in the West who are flourishing and doing fine despite the fact that the American government is trying to kill them. And so one thing that happens is that Catholics, Jesuit priests, set up schools, and all of the children are forced off the reservations and into these boarding schools to erase their identities.
Yep. And be tortured.
So Mother Superior, Mother Mary, is asked to go to Montana to set up an Ursuline convent there and a boarding school for Native children. So she goes to Montana, and while she's there, she becomes really sick. So Mary Fields hears about this and is immediately on a train to get there, to go take care of Mother Mary. So she travels all the way to Cascade, Montana.
I don't know where that's at.
It's a tiny little area, kind of around the Great Falls-ish area.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was very small. It's very rural, it's small, and it's it's harsh. Harsh place. So when she gets there, she takes care of Mother Mary Amadeus, but she also is asked to start taking care of some things around this convent. And when Mother Amadeus recovered, she asked Mary to stay. And Mary was actually pretty well suited to the West. Montana was a hardscrabble kind of area. People definitely drank and smoked and swore and were a little rough around the edges, and Mary fit in with that crowd. So she worked the convent by hauling freight, doing laundry, growing vegetables, taking care of chickens, repairing buildings, and eventually became the forewoman.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
She's doing a lot.
She ended up actually working at the convent for 10 years and developed a reputation for, quote, having the temperament of a grizzly bear.
She sounds really rough around the edges.
Yeah, but also like really, I mean, hardworking and
a real sense of direction, it seems, with her.
And she was fiercely devoted to these nuns.
Wow.
And to the school and to the students. She was well liked by the students. She was really devoted and very kind to them, but also was a tough woman who liked to drink, curse, shoot guns, and wear men's clothing. So the mission that she worked at was one of the schools that were started for Blackfeet children, which is a tribe in northwest Montana. And that's where they sent the Blackfeet children. And they referred to Mary, the children did, as White Crow because she, quote, acts like a white woman but has black skin.
Whoa.
I know.
Yikes.
And I kind of wondered what that meant. Like, what did they mean by she acted like a white woman? She doesn't sound very like... She doesn't sound like she belongs in anyone's box.
I don't know.
And so, in fact, the local whites didn't know what to make of her. One schoolgirl wrote in an essay at school in Cascade. So Cascade is town. The convent is outside of town, just off the Blackfeet reservation, is what I kind of gathered. And so she would go into town to go get things and whatever, but she didn't really interact too much with people, other than going to the saloons and stuff like that. So a school, but obviously she would have been very noticeable as the only black person in Cascade.
Yeah. Kind of hard to miss that one right there.
Shortly after the Civil War. So the local whites didn't know what to make of her, but she was noticeable. So this little girl wrote an essay about her in school and wrote, she drinks whiskey and she swears and she is a Republican, which makes her a low, foul creature.
Whoa.
It made me laugh. I'm not a Republican, but I'm all those other things.
That's awesome.
Her behavior, though, so she, she was raising some eyebrows. She did like to drink, and she loved her guns. And she had gotten into some tussles a time or two. And from what I would guess is that the majority of them were not provoked by her. Mm-hmm. But the bishop of Great Falls, Bishop Brundell, had started to hear about her. And he wasn't real keen on the idea of a black woman working. And also, she was in charge of things at this convent. But the Mother Superior was like always defending Mary and saying like, no, I can take care of this. But he started to really keep tabs on her, this bishop. And it to me kind of seemed like he was looking for a reason to try to get rid of her.
Yeah.
So she actually ended up leaving the convent because of an incident. And I'm going to tell you about this incident because I read quite a few stories about her. And the thing that got her kicked out of the convent, in, I would say 80% of the things I read, made it real jokey sounding. Like, oh, she got in a tussle with this guy and they pulled guns on each other and it was, haha, the Wild West. That's not what happened. Here's the true story of what happened at the convent.
Okay.
Mary had been given the job of being the forewoman, and the other workers had to answer to her. All of the people who worked on the grounds, the janitors, the people doing repairs on the buildings, she was in charge. Mm-hmm. And there was a custodian, a janitor, who was a white man who didn't much like taking orders from a black woman.
Of course he wouldn't.
And so during an argument, the man hit Mary. Then he reached for his gun, but Mary was quicker. She grabbed her pistol and fired, but the bullet missed the man. So he wasn't injured.
Okay.
And the nuns defended her and defended what happened and protested, but the bishop forced her out of the convent. But that's a far cry from what I read in like 3 or 4 different sources that were like, oh, well, they just had they had an argument.
They had a misunderstanding.
They had an argument that ended with, literally almost every one of them said there was an argument that ended with pulled guns. And that was it. They didn't say what the argument was about, or the fact that this guy pulled the gun first, or that
he hit her.
Yeah, he hit her, and he probably
he was gonna shoot her probably too.
For sure. He was reaching for his gun, and she happened to be faster. So she left the convent, and she was pretty devastated.
Well, yeah, what you were saying of like how devoted she was to that place and those people, and she is not in the wrong.
Yeah,
but
and
she
how
has
proud
to go.
she was of her work there. Like, the reason why she would get in tussles with the nuns is because they were, like, walking in her flowers or whatever. Mm-hmm. She cared deeply about the work that she did there, and she was proud of the work she did there. And she had proven to be competent and talented, and therefore she was made the boss. Mm-hmm. Too bad, so sad, Dick. You're not the boss. But it was it still is, has been, and always will be probably an unfair place and time. And so she moved into the town of Cascade. For a while, she did odd jobs around town. Did some laundry here and there, worked in a store. She really wanted to open a restaurant.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So Mother Amadeus helped her open a restaurant, but Mary wasn't a very good businesswoman. She made damn good food, according to the people who were around at the time and went to her restaurant. They loved her food, but she wasn't very good at business because she would feed anyone regardless of whether or not they could pay.
I was just thinking that. I was like, you know what it was? Is she was feeding people and giving it for free because she has that heart.
Yep. So she couldn't stay afloat, and she tried again a second time to open a restaurant, and the same thing, she went under pretty quickly. So she just wasn't good at that. She just had a heart and couldn't turn away hungry people. Mm-hmm. She also had developed quite a reputation for hard drinking and getting into gunfights.
Work hard, play hard.
She reminds me of like those people who are like have that rough, tough exterior, but are really just gooey teddy bears on the inside.
Nougat in the middle. Yeah.
I love that about her.
My boss told me that because he goes, you put on this attitude that you're so tough and hard. He goes, but I know you're really soft in the middle. And I said, okay, you tell anybody that, I'll scratch your eyes out.
I think she means it. In 1895, at around age 60. So think about how tough you have to be to even make it to the age of 60. After having been a slave and then living in Montana in the wilderness, basically in the wilderness.
Hard labor and hard conditions.
Yeah. She was a tough Mary. So at around age 60, Mary got a contract from the Postal Service to become a star route carrier after she was the fastest applicant to hitch a team of 6 horses.
Oh, cool. I was wondering, like, what does she do to get the job? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, the fastest one to hitch a team of 6 horses. So they were like, done, you're it. This made her the second woman and the first African-American woman to work for the U.S. Postal Service, though it is worth noting that the star route carriers were considered independent contractors who carried mail using a stagecoach. Mm-hmm. So it was like the places that the U.S. Postal Service couldn't get to.
Okay.
That's what they would be like, well, if you want to do that, we'll hire you as an independent contractor and you can do this route. So that's what she did. And her stagecoach was donated to her by Mother Amadeus from the convent.
Wow.
So
Mother Amadeus has a lot of resources.
and really, I mean, obviously cared deeply about Mary Fields.
Yeah.
And I always wonder.
What is that?
They were probably just really good friends and whatever, but I also am like, I don't know. Maybe there was something going on there. So maybe that was the real reason the bishop wanted to get rid of her.
Ooh, yeah.
Maybe I'll write an erotic
Blasphemers!
novel where that's
Ooh, that would be such a good novel.
Oh, wouldn't it? Don't steal that. I'm taking it.
Copyright.
Okay. So her stagecoach was donated to her. Here's what she had to do, though. This is crazy. As a star carrier, Mary's job was to protect the mail from thieves and bandits on her way to delivering the goods. Okay. This was common, especially in the Wild West.
Yeah.
So Stagecoach Mary carried a rifle and a revolver. Her route stretched over rough, rocky roads. But people said that her size and her demeanor often helped intimidate would-be thieves. It's like they rode up and they were like, She was huge, though. Huge.
Really?
Woman. She was, I think I read somewhere that she was over 6 feet tall and almost 300 pounds.
Oh my goodness.
She was a very large woman.
Whoa.
So I can understand why you would like ride up on this person in this crate, like pulling a stagecoach, and then she stands up and you're like, whoa.
Yikes.
Yeah, she was a very, very large woman. And her route was one of the most dangerous in the state of Montana, which is saying something. First off, it's in the Wild West. This is when there's a lot of lawlessness. Montana is still a gigantic state with not a lot of oversight.
No.
Like, you could definitely bury a lot of bodies. Like, no one would ever know because it is an enormous state with not a lot of people in it. And at the time, it was even less populated and even more dangerous. Not just because there were bandits and thieves, but the terrain and the weather were awful. And so she would frequently be caught in blizzards and huge storms and still never missed a single day.
Wow.
Not a single route.
And also having to take care of the animals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Could you imagine, cleaning their shoes, getting them fed?
Her reliability is what earned her the nickname Stagecoach Mary. Even when the snow buried her stagecoach, she would still deliver her mail via snowshoeing.
Wow.
She would carry these heavy sacks on her shoulders for miles to deliver the mail. Like, she was a tough motherfucker. So despite this exterior, though, this like really big, tough exterior, one thing everybody talked about was how much she loved children.
Oh.
And she just really had a soft spot for kids. And she was very generous and kind and would like use her meager earnings to buy treats for kids. She often would be asked to babysit. So she would make a little extra money here and there by babysitting. And the kids loved her. She loved kids. And she also was a really good gardener. So at her place, she had lovely flowers, and the kids would come and pick flowers and stuff. And so the locals in the town of Cascade came to really love and embrace her. They, she was really reliable. She was super kind and very generous, and a
nice person, a good person,
really nice person. So much so that she became a well-respected public figure, and the town actually closed its schools every year to celebrate her birthday.
Oh my goodness!
Because all the kids would go to her party.
Yeah.
And when
it almost sounds like she's almost childlike in a way, like just very like youthful almost.
Yeah, it seemed like maybe she was, just kind of like everybody's grandma. Because she's at this point well into her 60s, and of course there's a lot of lore about her because of the gun slinging and the drinking and whatever. So she became this well-respected figure, and I love this little tidbit. When Montana passed a law forbidding women to enter saloons, the mayor of Cascade granted Mary an exemption.
Like, I ain't gonna mess with that shit.
He was like, well, I mean, all of the other women can't come in, but Mary
can.
So the physical demands, though, of the Star Route life really caught up with her, and she decided to retire around age 71. So,
oh, jeez.
71.
Wow.
She's like, I should retire. But she continued to be a dynamic presence in the small town of Cascade, where she babysat and owned and operated a laundry service out of her home. So she would launder people's clothing or their upholstery and whatnot, curtains, things like that. Legend has it, though, that one day, I love legends. Legend has it that one day, while drinking in a saloon, a man walked by outside. A customer who had not paid for his laundry service.
Ooh.
Mary rushed from the saloon, grabbed the man by the collar with one hand, and punched him in the face with the other, breaking his nose. Mary is quoted as saying, "His debt is now paid."
Oh my gosh, this woman is terrifying.
But also amazing.
Amazing.
She was also a huge fan of baseball.
Oh, cool.
And specifically the town's baseball team. She would grace the players with flowers whenever they would hit her home run. So she would, because she grew flowers on her property. So she would bring in flowers to the games. And every time they got a home run, she would give them flowers.
Wow. And
she'd punch anyone who spoke ill of them. I know some Seahawks fans who are like that.
True.
She was such a storied character that the famous Montana artist Charlie Russell sketched her into a piece he called A Quiet Day in Cascade. In the drawing, Mary has just been knocked down by a runaway hog.
Is it because she's knocked out and that's why it's quiet?
No. Like, are you familiar with Charlie Russell's work?
No.
So he's huge in Montana, and he's really huge amongst Western artists in general.
Okay.
But, like, you can't go anywhere in the Great Falls region without being like at C.M. Russell High School, C.M. Russell Highway, C.M. Russell this.
Was he from Montana?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And he was from that area.
Okay.
And, but he became a world-renowned artist, and he would paint realistic Western scenes. So this was just a sketch he did that he called A Quiet Day in Cascade. And so it's just got a picture of daily life kind of thing happening in it. So people are going about their daily business. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to include her because she was such a important presence, public figure. And so he put her and they're often kind of whimsical, some of his portraits. Others are like straight up Westerns, horses, gunfights, whatever. But some of them are like kind of whimsical. And that's what I kind of think of this one. It's just a quiet day as she's getting knocked over by a hog. Mary also knew Gary Cooper as a small child, and I don't know if you know who he was, but he was he went on to become a famous Hollywood actor.
Okay.
And
That name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he was in Westerns.
Okay.
So that's why I thought you might know, seeing as how you're the Western
I was
queen.
like, Gary Cooper sounds familiar.
Yeah, well, and he has a star on the Walk of Fame in Montana. He spoke of her years later in an interview with Ebony Magazine. He was interviewed by Ebony Magazine, which I always thought was weird anyway. But he spoke of her and very fondly. And I'm going to get to a quote from him actually later. So in 1914, though, Mary became very ill. And this is what I think of her. I think this encapsulates the kind of person she is. She didn't want to burden anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So she just went out of her house and walked into the tall grass and laid down. The mayor's sons heard her moaning and then ran for help.
Oh, wow.
And she was taken to Columbus Hospital in Great Falls, where she died. She was buried in the Hillside Cemetery in Cascade, and her funeral was one of the largest, most well-attended funerals in Cascade history.
Wow.
Mary never married, and she never relied on the support of others. Mm-hmm. She was a very independent woman. She could shoot, drink, swear, and do traditional men's work. She was also a large and imposing woman who often wore men's clothing. Well, I should say men's shirts and jackets, but she would also wear skirts. Mm-hmm. But like, I can imagine that there were probably not a lot of women's clothing that would fit her stature.
Yeah.
That's why she wore men's clothing.
Yeah.
Like, she was a large woman. She also socialized with men at the baseball field and in saloons. So there was this really pervasive stereotype about her being, really masculine and whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was at a website called Montana Women's History, and they did a really good job of talking about this particular way of describing her and continuing to talk about her as being this like masculine person. Mm-hmm. And how it really illustrates the intersections of racism and misogyny, often called misogynoir. Mm-hmm. Because, there's this pervasive stereotype that Black women, well, especially at this time, were unattractive or they weren't womanly or mm-hmm. blah, blah, blah. And so this continued description of her kind of plays into a really negative racist stereotype about Black women, and sort of removes her womanhood and her femininity. Mm-hmm. So they really wanted to also highlight the things that were more traditionally feminine. Like, she really loved to take care of children. She loved growing flowers. She wore skirts every single day. That's why I said, to me, she wore men's clothing on top because that's probably all that would fit her.
Yeah, and also the work that she did. Right. I'd imagine it would be comfortable.
And I think that it's okay. We have such limited ideas of gender and what is allowed to be feminine and what's allowed to be masculine. And, not everybody ever fits into the boxes. Mm-hmm. And she just didn't. It sounds to me like that was kind of what she liked. Mm-hmm. She liked being her own person and living her life her own way.
Yeah.
They also, at Montana Women's History, talked about how in the town of Cascade that she was likely extremely isolated because there was no Black community at all. And she most certainly faced a ton of prejudice. Mm-hmm. While Stagecoach Mary was her most popular and common nickname, she was also sometimes referred to as Black Mary, Colored Mary, and the N-word Mary.
Oh, geez.
And it was clearly there was a class system based on her race,
Yeah.
And, I thought it was really interesting that they brought that up. That there were Black communities in places like Great Falls and Billings, but she was nowhere near those places. She was isolated from them. And, mm-hmm. and to be fair, it was by choice, but it would have been, I would imagine, a kind of lonely and isolating time.
Yeah. It was by choice, but it doesn't make it any less difficult.
Shitty.
Yeah.
I do want to say, though, that sometime in the early aughts, like before 2008, I couldn't figure out the exact date, Cascade, the town, decided to hold a Mary Fields Day and invited some of her relatives from the South to Montana to celebrate her life. And the town also still cares for her grave, which is decorated with flowers every spring.
I was wondering that. I was like, I wonder if her grave is still there.
And Mary was considered very inspirational. She was tough. She lived her life exactly as she wanted to. And this is what Gary Cooper said in that magazine interview in I can't remember. It was like in the 60s or 70s.
Okay.
Cooper said this: "She was born a slave, but lived to become one of the freest souls to ever draw a breath or a 38.
Oh, that is beautiful.
Yeah, I thought that was actually a really great encapsulated it.
Yeah.
So I could not, when I found this Montana Women's History website, I was like, this is a fucking gold mine. I already know who my next woman is going to be.
Oh, nice.
Because of the website. I also used history.com and then an article from the Billings Gazette that was quite old. And I did draw a little bit from Wikipedia.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm trying to move away from using Wikipedia, especially when it's something like this. Mm-hmm. It's like, I bet there's somebody in Montana who knows a hell of a lot more than some jackass writing that Wikipedia article from their living room in Detroit. No, I'm just joking.
Well, I also used history.com. I used Women You Should Know. I used Wikipedia. I used Britannica.
Well, I hope you enjoyed Mary. I sure did enjoy her.
I did.
And I can't wait to put the pictures of her up because there's this really great photo of her with the baseball team.
Oh, nice. That is just amazing.
I believe she has a cigar in her mouth.
Nice.
There's one out there that definitely has her like, smoking a stogie and like cheering on the baseball team.
I'm going to share some photos. There was some artwork that was done of Valentina in her spacesuit, which was kind of used to when she was doing like her international work and stuff.
Cool.
Yeah. I enjoyed this one.
I did too. Thank you guys for listening. We want to give our shout outs and our end credits to our editor, Lucas McIntyre. Thank you for all the work you do. And once again, our theme music is brought to you by L7, who wrote and produced this song and is on their Hungry for Stink album. Please check it out.
Thanks for listening again, guys. We'll see you next time. All right.
Bye.
Bye. See you. Why do I say that? Why do I fucking say that?